Hola, ¿cómo están? En este caso tenemos el honor de recibir al profesor Jonathan Glass, que es el director de la clínica Emory de Atlanta, en los Estados Unidos. Jonathan Glass es uno de los neurocientíficos más prominentes del mundo y de los más jerarquizados en los Estados Unidos. En este caso nos va a hablar sobre la atención multidisciplinaria de su clínica, trasladando las experiencias y también sobre los ensayos clínicos que hay actualmente en el mundo y sus comentarios al respecto. Muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros, Jonathan, nuevamente. Tuvimos el placer de recibirte hace un par de años atrás en Argentina, en diferentes lugares del país, y para nosotros es un enorme privilegio contar nuevamente con tu palabra y con tu experiencia y con tu sapiencia para toda la comunidad argentina. Bienvenido, Jonathan. Gracias.
Okay, well, I'm happy to be here. Hello, everybody. My name is Jonathan Glass. I am the director of the Emory ALS Center in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. And my friends, Pablo and Dario, have asked me to give a little presentation about how we run our multidisciplinary clinic. And I'm going to try to do that this morning. And so just to start off, this is the way we approach care. We approach care by combining a partnership between the medical professionals and the patients and volunteers, but also we have vendors and all kinds of other folks who come into the clinic to help. Anybody who's got expertise, we invite them in. And so this is the way it kind of looks. We say it takes a team for patient-centered care, and what you can see is right in the middle are the ALS patients and their families. And here we have the Muscular Dystrophy Association and the ALS Association that actually participate by not only giving us a little bit of money to support this clinic, but they come in to the clinic and meet these patients, and they can provide certain amount of services within their homes and in their communities that we can't provide here at the clinic. And so we work with them directly as partners so they can tell us what's happening at home while we're taking care of them in the clinic. But as you can see, surrounding this care team are our clinical nurses and physicians and our research nurses and staff. We also have many people from the rehab facility, which include physical therapists and occupational therapists. We have a nutritionist, dietitian. We have a respiratory therapist, speech pathologist. We have social work, and somebody who deals with augmentative communication with the tools that we now have to help people communicate who can't speak. But also, we have vendors, and these vendors will include wheelchair fitting services. And so when patients come to the clinic, they can bring their wheelchairs, and those wheelchairs can be fixed. Those wheelchairs can be changed to help with the patients. They can be refitted right there in the clinic. And the idea here is this is a one-stop clinic where people come and can get everything they need so they don't have to go to multiple healthcare providers or multiple vendors. We also have an orthotist that comes to the clinic to give patients things like foot braces, hand braces, all kinds of things like that, neck braces. We have volunteers that come to the clinic, and these volunteers are typically family members of people that we have taken care of in the past who want to give back to the community. These people are extraordinarily experienced in how to care for their loved ones at home and can give lots of advice to other families who are dealing with this. And possibly most important are our students and fellows that come to clinic. We need to teach the next generation how to do this. And so we encourage our students and fellows to come and to learn and participate, which many of them have told us when they go out into practice has been very helpful. Oops. So this is our team. This is just our clinical team. We have three physicians, myself, Dr. Cristina Fournier, and Dr. Rocio Garcia Santabanez, who's from Ecuador, and actually she quite helps. She speaks obviously fluent Spanish. We have a big Spanish-speaking population up here, and so she can help directly with communicating with those folks. We also have a nurse practitioner Annie Rowland, and probably the person who runs the clinic most, who works really 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to help these patients, is our clinical nurse, Holly Doe. We also have a team of research nurses who deal not only with helping take care of patients. These three nurses are extraordinarily experienced in the care of ALS patients, but they run our research team, which help with all of our clinical trials. And we help to recruit patients for clinical trials and keep them in our clinical trials. And within that are the non-medical staff that are clinically research coordinators who run some of those clinical trials and are extraordinarily important in keeping all these things going. Right now, we're working on about 5 or 6 clinical trials actively, and so keeping all those balls in the air is sometimes quite a challenge, and this team does a great job. We have 2 physical therapists that come to the clinic, and hopefully Diane Beckwith will come on a little bit later to answer some questions. We have an occupational therapist, Nicole Patel. We have respiratory therapist. We have Rob and Shundelin, speech and swallowing, a speech pathologist, extraordinarily helpful in addressing whether patients are safe to swallow, whether they need PEG tubes, and whether they need strategies to help with their swallowing, along with Glenn, our nutritionist, who's been with us probably since the beginning and has probably learned more about the nutrition of ALS from experience in taking care of ALS patients than most nutritionists around the world. We have somebody who we recruited from something called Tools for Life, which is run out of one of the other universities in Atlanta. This is Krista, and Krista helps with all the electronics that are coming on board, the eye gaze systems, the new systems that are coming out that work with both the iPad and the Android tablets. And she is very good at deciding what patients need and what the appropriate intervention is for them in terms of electronics. We recently added Lauren, who is a genetic counselor. She's a certified genetic counselor. And as you know, genetics is a big deal right now, especially now that we're doing genetic gene therapy trials, but also we're looking for people who are at risk for genetic type disease. And she's extraordinarily important in doing some of that genetic counseling that's necessary before we test people. She also brings in her genetic counseling students who are learning about ALS, and that's something that needs to be done literally all over the world, because ALS was never really something that geneticists paid attention to, but they are now. Our social worker, Michelle, helps deal with family issues, including interactions among family members, insurance issues, dealing with children, and she's very experienced in that way. And then we have this team of volunteers. These are just some of them, run by Karen Duffy. Karen came to us about 15 years ago through her children. Her 2 young boys got interested in ALS, and they called me and said, "What can we do for ALS?" And I showed them the laboratory. I showed them what we did. And now Karen not only runs our volunteer program, she runs some of our fundraising events, and it has really become a member of the team. And she brings in these other folks who typically have had family members associated with ALS and who come in and help us with everything we need to do. Very important is our administrator. This is Ruya, and Ruya makes sure that patients get to the clinic, get their appointments, now deal with our Zoom appointments. She's very valuable. And Michael deals with our database, which now has about 2,500 patients in it. We try to take all the different details of patients, all the biospecimens that we've collected, and he has created an enormous database where we can just go into it and see who these people are, where they are in the progress of their disease, which ones might or might not be eligible for a clinical trial, but also what biospecimens do we have that we can share with researchers around the world that they can use. So it's a big team, and this is just the clinical team. I don't have the basic research team up here right now. But as you can see, I don't do it myself. In fact, I couldn't do it myself. It really takes a lot of people to really make this work. And we haven't stopped. We are continuing to do our multidisciplinary clinics during COVID. And again, a lot of this has been done by Michael and Ria. And what you can see here is banks of computers where we can actually have multiple patients online at the same time. They will see all the different providers that they need to see online. And what we have learned is two things. Number one, patients don't mind this. In fact, patients kind of like this. Traveling in Atlanta or to Atlanta and trying to park your car and getting into the clinic is not easy for many of these folks, number one. Number two, they are comfortable in their own homes, and they can have family members from anywhere in the world join into these Zoom meetings. And even though we can't physically examine them, we can get a sense of where they are in their disease. And in fact, Dr. Fournier has developed a telemedicine-based clinical examination that we're testing out now to see if we can get some real data on how people are doing. We do get respiratory therapists to go to people's homes so they can actually get some breathing numbers if we need it. And if they need a wheelchair, we can get our wheelchair vendors out there. We can bring them in to get them fitted for a new wheelchair. So we really haven't stopped, even though the COVID has kept us from seeing a lot of these folks in person.